Hello my besties, today is going to be another wrap-up video and I'm so excited because, knock on wood, but for the past 2 months of the year, which isn't a lot, I know, but I've had at least one 5-star book in the month, which has made me so incredibly happy. And I know it's not going to be like this for the rest of the year, but the fact that I'm just going to carry out this streak for as long as I can, fingers crossed, I will. This is actually probably the earliest I've ever filmed a video. It's not even 8 o'clock yet, but I have a busy day. I'm in a yappy mood. Let's talk about some books. Surprisingly enough, I didn't think I was going to finish this book at the end of the month because of the sheer girth of it, but I finished When the Moon Hatched, and I did indeed give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this. I didn't think I was gonna love it. I'm so glad I get the hype because I get it. I understand, and that makes me happy. I don't even know if I can describe to you what this is about. I honestly think you should go in blind, but one of the things I absolutely adored about this book was that it was a fantasy book that didn't make sense until it did. This much of the book is context for what happens in the rest of the book, which some may say to themselves, that is insane, and I do agree. It is insane. But it was so helpful. The way that Sarah writes is absolutely insane. The way I described it was beautifully devastating, because it is. And I don't know how to describe that to you. If you get it, you get it. My brain just works that way. She wove storylines together, and the big twist at the end, because what? I understand what people mean now by immediately when they finish this, they need to go back and reread it again, because I feel like there's so much I missed. The thickness of this is so insane to me, but it didn't feel like this. This probably felt like half of it, and I didn't get bored. There were no lull or boring parts of it. I was just so invested the whole time. This kind of gave me a little bit of The Throne of Glass just because of the assassinness of it all, but we're following our main character named Rave, and she is an assassin who ends up getting captured, and the government wants to make an example of her because she's part of an assassin group. So they're like, we are going to do our worst to you. They wanted to turn her into a warning, I guess, to the other members of the group. Forget about Rave for a second. Khan is a king, very separate from her situation, and he is heartbroken. He lost the love of his life, and he killed the man that did it. So there you go. And somehow he stumbles upon Rave, like he finds her, and he's like, you seem familiar, like you feel familiar to me. Why is that? And their story goes from there, and that's all I'm gonna tell you because it's just so good. Read it, please. I know it's intimidating. It did take me a while to get there, but this is from Christmas, and it sat there for a bit because I was too intimidated. Thank God I read it, because oh my god, this is just too good to sit on my shelf and collect dust. We have officially gotten to my favorite book of the month, and that is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young, and I gave this a 6 out of 5 star. This is a new god tier book for me. The way that this changed the way that my brain works is just absolutely insane. So want to hear a funny story? Of course you do. I bought a ticket to Abby Jimenez's book signing. One of the main pulls for me to buy that ticket was because Hannah is moderating that talk. So do with that what you will, but I'm so excited for that event. It's gonna be my first book event. Besides the point, Bo and Win have my heart. I can't describe it. This book in general just holds so much meaning and value and comfort to me, especially at the time in February that I read it. It helped me through so much. The healthy relationship in this kind of killed me, but in the best possible way, because how many books do you read, or romance books do you read, and consistently throughout it is just such healthy communication. The way that Bo cares and looks after Win, oh my god, it hurts, but like in the best possible way. I didn't think I would love the pregnancy trope, and that's kind of why I put it off for so long, but the way that Hannah did it was just, oh my gosh, she did it right. And now I don't think I can read any other pregnancy trope book because it won't live up to this. I was actually telling my boyfriend about this book yesterday, but there weren't super high stakes, and I think that's why I love this. I've come to realize that a lot of the books that I read that don't have super high stakes usually end up being some of my favorite books ever, which makes sense because I love cozy fantasies, like that subgenre. So this adds up because there was no extremely high stakes for this or conflict, which made a perfect comfort read for me. And I indeed will be rereading this book when I need a hug or I just need a comfort book, because this does it, and oh my god, I am so excited to read the rest of her books. This story follows Win and Bo, and they have a one-night stand at a Halloween party. Power to her, girl. Go off, Win. And 6 weeks later, she realizes she's pregnant, which is not the ideal outcome of that. But when she ended up telling Bo, he stepped up. He said, yes, I'm gonna help. I'm gonna do everything in my power I can to make your life easier because I want to be involved in this baby's life. And my reaction was, wow, that's crazy. Not in a bad way, but how many times do you read about that? Win doesn't think she can do the journey by herself, so Bo's like, I'm there. Whatever you need, I'm here. Just tell me. So they go on the journey together and they get to know each other a lot better. Win's like, no, I want to stay friends. This is the boundary. But are they gonna stay friends? I don't know. They could be more. I love it so much. I feel like I could yap about this forever, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts, go back to the Valentine's Day reading blog. Next up, we have A Teller of Small Fortunes, and this was a 5 out of 5 stars. And I read this book in a little under 2 days. I started Friday night and finished it Saturday night. And I think it was just the cutest little story ever. This kind of solidified my love for cozy fantasies, because even though there was no high stakes, it was just so comforting. I read this when we had a huge snowstorm, so I basically read this, went outside, played in the snow, came back in, finished it. And it was just such a vibe. Cute. The found family in this literally made my heart cry in the best possible ways. It tugged at my heartstrings, and it was nothing like serious, crazy emotional. I'm just an emotional person in general. I think that this just really got to me in ways that I wasn't expecting it to. This book follows Tao, and she is a traveling fortune teller. She only does small fortunes because there are just so many big implications and consequences that come with reading a bigger fortune, and she wants to stay away from that. So she's a traveling fortune teller, and she runs into a semi-retired thief and an ex-mercenary. She was beyond herself. She said, I don't want any trouble, guys. And they're like, don't worry, we're ex-reformed, we don't do this stuff anymore. We're actually looking for his daughter. They asked to join Tao on her travels because they were going that way anyways. So she was a little hesitant, but agreed. And they go on all these adventures in one of the towns, and they meet a baker named Kina. She's not the best. She's trying her best, but she's not the best. And Tao ends up reading her palm, or her fortune, and realizes Kina is actually destined to travel with the three of them. So Kina packs up her life and all of her baking supplies and joins Tao and the two men on an adventure. So it's super fun. It's so cozy. I know not a lot of people love cozy fantasies just because there aren't super high stakes, but I love this, and I can't wait to get to more cozy fantasies because it makes me so happy, and I don't know why. I told my boyfriend, and he's like, this does make sense why cozy fantasies are your favorite. And I thought to myself, I guess it kind of does. I don't know what that means, but yes, I think that makes sense. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter was indeed my first Lynn Painter book, and it did live up to all of the hype that I was hearing about Lynn Painter books. I feel like I should have started with Better Than the Movies because that's her most popular book, but we started with this one because it was Valentine's Day, and it was a Groundhog Valentine's Day story. I didn't mind it as much as I thought. It gave me 90s rom-com vibes at the end, which I love. Like, I'm obsessed. I'm a 90s rom-com girly, even though I wasn't born in the 90s. So I think it was just so much fun. You can hear more of my thoughts in the Valentine's Day video, but essentially this book is about our girl Emmy, and she has planned the perfect Valentine's Day down to a T. Very type A of her. We love that. Side note, her boyfriend and her have only been together for 3 months, so keep that in mind. But basically, she plans the perfect day, and then it starts going a little wrong, and then the day just ends up going really bad. She literally walks out of school to find her boyfriend and sees the worst possible thing you could see on Valentine's Day, sort of thing. So she goes home super upset, and then the next day she wakes up, but surprise, surprise, it's still Valentine's Day. So she's like, oh my gosh, this is the universe's sign for me to correct what happened yesterday, but like not really yesterday. So then it just starts looping, and I don't love Groundhog Day sort of stories. Like they are my favorite, but I love this. This was so cute. I did get a little teeny bit frustrated with it, but then I had to remind myself it was YA and the main characters are still in high school. But other than that, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars out of 5 because it's just really cute, and I think this is exactly what I wanted from a Valentine's Day rom-com. I literally just yapped about this and I realized I didn't press the record button, but Off to the Races by Elsie Silver was a 3 out of 5 stars. I love Elsie Silver. Don't get me wrong, everyone knows I love Elsie Silver. This book in general is just so different from the Rose Hill series, understandably so, because it was probably, I think it's her first published book, but it was just so different in the way that I did not like the male main character. Like, I have a bone to pick with Vaughn, and I know that he was like going through a lot in the book, but just the way that he would talk about Billy and some of his motives, he would say, oh, I know that my actions aren't the best and they're gonna hurt her, and I know I've hurt her, but it's okay, she'll come back to me eventually. Please. Please. Other than not loving the male main character, it was still a cute book, and it did give me very cowboy, and I wanted to get into her cowboy romances so bad, so yet here we are. Let me tell you what this book is about. So it is about Billy and Vaughn. Vaughn is the owner of a horse racing farm, so he has all the horses for horse racing, and he is currently grieving the death of his grandfather and also dealing with a scandal caused by his grandfather. So he's kind of just processing, wow, he's not the man that I made him out to be in my head. He has to try and like fix the farm's reputation, and that's when he brings in Billy to train his most stubborn racehorse, which all of his other horse trainers can't. So she comes in and they do not get along. They got off on the wrong foot. Vaughn is just a grumpy old man, and Billy's like, don't even start with me. I know what kind of man you are. She trains the horses, and he kind of like warms up to her once he sees how she's like with the horses and the staff, and he essentially goes like, okay, maybe I didn't hate her as much as I did before. So it's just, it is an enemies to lovers, and it is super cute. It's just some things about Vaughn were just very, very off-putting. Next up, I read Impossible Creatures, or well, I listened to Impossible Creatures, and I give that a 3 out of 5 star. And I honestly think I would have loved it if I didn't listen to it first, so if I read it, and if it came out maybe 10 years ago when I was still in my YA phase, because it was a YA book, and sometimes I really love YA books, like The Do-Over, but this one, I couldn't get into it for some reason, and it was probably because I was listening to it on audio. I think if I was reading it and more immersed, I probably would have loved it a lot more, but it's just so up my alley. It's magical creatures and dragons and a magical world. The concept was so fun, it just didn't hit with me, unfortunately, and again, that could be a me problem. This story is about Christopher, and he goes to visit his grandfather, and then he discovers that his family are the guardians of the entrance to a magical archipelago that it houses all of the magical creatures in the world. He finds that out because he rescues a baby griffin from the lake, and he was really confused because where did this baby griffin come from? A girl named Mal appears out of nowhere, and she's like, that's my griffin, give it back. And he's really confused, but she's like, just come with me, I'll explain everything. And that's when he gets immersed into the world and the archipelago and all the magic and the creatures and the dragons, and it's just so fun. But Mal realizes that something's not right, something's going wrong, the world is dying. Mal and Christopher basically go on a little adventure to figure out what is going on with Mal's world and if there's any way for them to fix it. I gave Honey and Spice a 3.5 star out of 5. I know that this is a romance book, but my favorite part of it, the female friendships in this book just killed me in the best possible way, because basically they start off in cliques and groups, and then they all kind of come together. Not for a greater good, but just because they realize that, wow, you're kind of cool, I vibe with you. The relationship was cute, don't get me wrong, the romance was really cute, but it was really the friendships that did it for me. This story follows Kiki, and she has a radio show on university campus called Black Sugar, and it's so funny. The premise of the show is to essentially help the women of the campus navigate whether they're in a situationship, how to get out of a situationship, and how to avoid a situationship. Basically protecting them from boys who don't want relationships and are too scared to say it. One day, Kiki calls out Makai, and that is because Makai is dating a bunch of girls on campus, and they're all kind of being salty towards each other because they know that Makai is with a bunch of them. So she basically calls him out on her radio station, and that basically ruins the reputation of her show and Makai's reputation. So the only logical solution that they can come up with is that Kiki and Kai start fake dating to try and save both of their reputations, so the show's reputation and Makai's reputation, and from there it kind of becomes more, as it always does in fake dating. But this is just, I think this is just so cute. Next we have the Hurricane Wars, and I am so sad because I wanted to love this book so much, but I did not. I think I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This just didn't work for me, which is okay, because I know it worked for other people. It just didn't work for me. I loved the atmosphere and the setting and where they were, because knowing that this author is of Filipino descent, which so am I kind of envisioned what she was talking about and like what the world she was building would look like. But I didn't love the relationship. I know it was enemies to lovers. It is a romantasy, but I didn't love it. And I don't know, the whole thing just, it was a little confusing to get into. The world building wasn't there for me. I don't love fantasy books where you're just plopped in the world and then kind of expected to know everything and then learn more things, like learn the basics along the way. I kind of need it spelt out for me, just like a little baby bit. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't for me. It didn't work for me in this one, and it sucks because I really wanted to love it. Like, I loved the lore. I think it was a bit too much on the political side for me. Just, there's so many politics that I didn't care about. I was like, I want the world. Give me the world, give me the fighting, give me the dragons. Don't give me the politics of the queen being mean, because I don't like that. I don't like when people are mean. So, I don't know, I really wanted to love this. I don't know if I'm gonna read the second one. Not gonna lie, I probably should have DNF'd this, but I have a very hard time DNFing books. This book follows Taliesin, and all she's really known has been the wars. She's an orphan, and she's fighting for her province. I guess I can't remember what it is. And she's basically fighting to protect everyone from the Night Empire. They're bad, they're evil, they can wield shadows. Prince Alaric can wield shadows, and Taliesin is a light weaver, so their powers are kind of like clashed, you know? So they end up fighting each other and realize that if their powers like fuse, they can form a new kind of power. They end up going to a neighboring province or region that is neutral. They will not participate in the war. And then Taliesin finds out that she is the long-lost princess. So they're fighting, and I don't know what I can say and what I can't say that's not a spoiler, but it's basically, there's a lot of politics. It's a romantasy. Great atmosphere though, great setting. I couldn't get into it, and I want to try and tell you what it's about, but I honestly don't think I could, because I'm still a little baby bit confused, and all of the terms and like names of places, they're gone from my head. I do not remember them. They did not hold much space up there. This is always my favorite part of the video, just like holding up all of the books I read and being like, look guys, look at everything I did this month. I'm so proud. It is now past 8 a.m. so yay, normal people hours of the day. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you all in next week's video. Bye guys!